What's up, Rockstars? Today I'm giving you a speed review of The Curse of Candelabria. That is by Lunar Oak Studio, the makers of S.H.I.E.L.D. They are back with their next campaign, their next game, and let's discuss how good it is. Thank you to my channel sponsor Into the AM. As a company that believes hard work and a great product is a proper way to conduct business, I am delighted to have them as part of the channel. They have some of the coolest graphic t-shirts around and an absolute best fit and feel that has continually exceeded my expectations. With new shirts arriving all the time and other products like boxers, hats, and even a monthly shirt club, I wholeheartedly recommend them to you. Check out the link in my description of this video for an exclusive 10% off everything they sell. Now, as always, there's a link down in the description below to the Kickstarter that should be live right around now, actually, so feel free to check that out. And, of course, timestamps down there, too, for your viewing pleasure. At the very end, I am going to have a pros and cons and a kind of a closing thoughts on what I'm going to do. Am I even going to back this game? I'll let you guys know. And with that, let's just dive right in. Now, the first thing you're going to note is the theme is awesome and unique. It's really, really good looking. The candles look great. The art style's awesome. It is different than anything I own, and I very much appreciate that. It's also a fairly safe theme, too. This is something you could kind of bring anywhere, and it'll be kind of at least mildly interesting, if nothing else, to just about anyone. It's not like it's a, hey, if you're not into robots, you don't like that. I mean, this kind of cool candle thing is, I think, something that's kind of universally intriguing. At least I would say so. Now, it is kind of a bummer because while that art is so beautiful and the theme is so awesome, you do get generic candles to represent pretty much all of these characters. The curses are very cool and they're sculpted, but at least in this prototype, the actual candles you recruit and get are all kind of represented in a generic fashion. I can understand why it's that way. There are a lot of them. However, it is a little bit of a bummer, at least for me. Now, you get all of these cool characters, and you can actually recruit them and then pair them with a customized strength level that can introduce neat combos. So you can actually pay more for them to actually recruit them with essentially a higher candlestick. In other words, more wax that they can either survive battles more or they can move more. There's a lot of stuff like that you can do. But each one actually has a unique ability that is paired with their other abilities. So you might want to slot this guy, and you might really like to slot him in the medium one. You could pay a little bit more, but the medium skill that you get on your faction board might be something that really pairs well with him. So you build these really neat combos by doing that. I thought that was pretty cool. Now, there is a really high skill ceiling for this game, and what I mean by that is you can predict most things. You can see where all the curses are going to be. You can see what the map and what abilities give you what, and where you're at and where everybody else is at. And so there's a lot of prediction going on there. And if you're good at what you're doing, if you know the skills and you know your faction, you know where you're going, you're going to start playing better game 2 and just keep building up from there. So there's definitely room to grow as a player in this, and it's definitely one where the person who planned better kind of tends to win. There's not a lot of random elements to this, so it's very much a my strategy versus your strategy, where the only kind of thing that can put a wrench into that is other people. Now, I mentioned those curses. Those curses are real wild cards with their abilities because they actually have an ability that even goes off even at the end no matter what, right? So if you are there in that area, you know you're going to get affected at least by something, but it could be even more. And honestly, I kind of really enjoyed having that kind of put a wrench in there. So you can't just go into the game always having a plan. I do this every single time. You're going to have to adapt a little bit based off of the circumstance, even from turn 1 and that setup and kind of where people go and stuff like that. So you can have a plan, but you might have to make a new plan as time goes on or depending on the situation there. And I really appreciated that. Now, like many Euros that don't have a very big focus on asymmetrical design, which I actually enjoy when they're not so asymmetrical, the rules are a little bit easier to, I mean, this rule book is really kind of short and sweet, and I really appreciate that. However, that does mean that the different houses don't fundamentally feel any different, because at the end of the day, you're kind of doing the same things. You might be better at something than another player might be, but again, with the same tactic cards and the same kind of general ways to do abilities, you're not doing anything super unique there. It's not like you have a candle that splits off into multiple candles and all that kind of stuff, at least not that I saw in my playthroughs. Additionally, at least right now, the map doesn't really change based off the player count. So if you're playing 3, if you're playing 5, you're playing on the same map. It doesn't really squish. And that means that 5 will probably, I didn't play at 5, but 5 probably plays a little almost overcrowded. And 3, you did kind of have a fair bit of room to kind of do your own thing for a while at least. And obviously that changes over time, but I did find that interesting. This game is, of course, still being fine-tuned and balanced. This is a prototype, of course, so perhaps that'll change in the future, but at least for the game that I played, that map is the map you get. Now, one of the cool things that I really loved is the fact that you can add flames as you move. So essentially you have this like little fire thing. I forget the term that they use for it, but it's not a temple, but it's essentially a little fire token that says, hey, I was here. And when you do that, you actually activate the ability of that area, but then you can't do it again because your marker's already there. And so you actually kind of have to keep pushing forward based on that because you keep wanting to do these different actions and make those actions better because the abilities often feed on other ones you have. So it's like, hey, do you have a mine? Well, you actually get resources for every mine you have. So having more mines is better. So it makes you constantly push forward and expand. And I really did appreciate that. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Small World there where, you know, you leave a guy behind and so you're constantly kind of moving forward. Same kind of idea here. Now, I know it's not asymmetrical. However, the houseboard customizations do open up a lot of replayability. So if you didn't know, you have this kind of main houseboard that comes with these abilities and comes with, you know, these different things, but you can customize those. So you can actually get these tiles you place over them that give you new abilities. And so you might like this faction, but you might like it with this ability or to go really big resource heavy or, you know, whatever it might be based off of the map and then based off the tiles that you overlay on there to really make it your own play version of that faction or that house. And I really did like that. Now, as you go and expand, you eventually get these temple layers, which are these colored temples for the main areas there. And when you get those, you get to do special abilities, which is already cool. But what I really liked is you also get victory points based off of how many different colors you have. So it really, again, pushes you forward to kind of go out to different areas and not just kind of hunker down on one area. That's kind of inefficient. You really do want to branch out and get more of the map so that you can get those tokens. But to get those temple tokens, you really have to be strong in there. So you can't just, place a few units there and probably get it. You really have to kind of go with your force, move people, or even, discard them and then add new ones. And that was really cool to kind of see the board shifted more throughout the game. Now, one of the ways you can get there is by purposely melting your candle. So you can actually take a layer off of your candle to be able to move farther. And that's kind of very much a risk versus reward or a cost to doing so. So you can always do that. And moving is so great because every time you move, you get to activate more areas and you get to go farther. And again, move into maybe another temple area disc color that you're looking for, something like that. So it's really cool to do that. However, that makes you weaker, right? That means you can't move as farther last time. It means you can't survive as long in a clash. And all those kind of things are playing in your head as you're making these decisions. So I mentioned a clash or combat. Let's talk about that real quick. What you do is it's very much strength based. You can think kind of like a blood rage kind of thing, right? Or most of these are kind of like that. I have these units and I know these units. Right now I'm in the lead. But then you have to play either 0, 1, or 2 tactic cards. And when you play those tactic cards, you place them face down and then flip them over. The cool part is you can actually kind of prevent other people from doing things. So let's say you melted your guys to where, if they melt anymore, they're gone. So somebody might try to melt your candle. Well, all you do with that is you can actually place melt candle ones in there. And if it's the same as what they did, you actually cancel their card out. So you can play to your advantage or you can play to try to prevent them from gaining advantage. And I really did like that. That mixed with all the abilities that play, it can be quite interesting for sure. And again, that's where that skill level really does come into play. I mean, there's a lot more to it than you would think with all of the variables there, but I really liked the ability to play a card that I didn't even necessarily want, but I wanted them to not do to me. I thought that was kind of cool, but it takes up one of 2 slots, so it does cost you. Now, finally, and this kind of has to be said, I put this last because it could be improved somewhat past the prototype. right? So it could have been exasperated, but I think it'll always kind of be a thing. But melting down a candle or building it up is kind of cumbersome, especially if you have to do multiple in a row, because you have to take it off and then take the little, piece off to make it lower and then put it back together. And it's a little cumbersome, especially for such a streamlined game. It's nothing too terrible, especially for me and a fan of dungeon crawlers and boss battlers and stuff like that. And that's nothing. But it is definitely the most obvious target in this game for that. And while I think it will improve from the prototype, it was definitely a little cumbersome, especially if you started doing it multiple times. So personally, what am I doing with this? Well, I had a lot of fun with this one. And in fact, I plan to continue to play the prototype even after this review, which I feel is one of the biggest testaments I can say to any game, actually. There's often games where I review them and I never play them again. But this one I have full intentions to keep on my table and keep playing and trying new things out and really just having fun with it. So obviously, unless it's crazy price, which it shouldn't be, I don't think, I'm going to be in on this one as well. This was a really fun one. Really did enjoy this. And let me know if you have any questions, of course, down in the comments below. And of course, there is that link in the description. Guys, thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll talk to you guys again very soon for some news. There's a lot of campaigns that are coming up right now. Some new events on Elden Ring. And of course, there's stuff that launched just today. So let's go ahead and talk about that tomorrow. But for today, we have The Curse of Candelabria. Take care, guys. Bye.